Hello everybody, it's Milt with Beacon Living Like a Boss. Well, you know, the days are getting pretty short, and when they're raining all day, I guess it makes a short day a real long day because you can't really do anything outside. But anyway, I thought this would be a perfect time, or one of the perfect times, to talk about this little object behind me here. And if you're thinking that that's a telescope, you'd be right. It is a telescope. There's a long story behind that telescope. It's fairly old now. It's, well, bet you it's at least 80 years old. And the most interesting part about it is that it's homemade. That brings me down to one of the reasons why I think I'm so interested in old equipment and restoring and keeping things alive in that regard. But this old telescope was actually made by one of my uncles back in the day, and I'm going to guess in the 1920s, 30s, something like that. He'd be a very young man at the time. And back in those days, I believe where he got the idea of making this telescope was through a magazine similar to, if not Popular Mechanics. That was their only source of entertainment for the winter, or one of. You had to entertain yourself by reading books or doing something like that, or listening to the battery-powered radio. There was no TV, there's no phone, there's no nothing else like that. You know, so you had to entertain yourself doing hands-on projects, of which they were very mechanically inclined. So long story short is, I thought this here piece of equipment was long lost to the family in the early 80s. The original farmhouse had burnt down. I thought everything was burnt inside the house, and all heirlooms were lost at that time. But one of my neighbors, like a childhood neighbor, school buddy, where we'd gone to school down in that area in the 60s and 70s, called me up here last year, and he said he asked if I remembered this old telescope that my uncle had built. And I said, well, yeah, but I thought it was destroyed. And he says, no, he's got it at his place. And he actually, by fluke, before the house had burnt, a year or two before the house burnt, he bought it from my uncle. And so he had it in his possession since that time. And he just phoned me up and he said if I wanted to come get it, I could have it back. It more or less belongs to the family, more than it would to him. And it was just like sitting in his garage, whatnot. And so when I went down to get the 1530 McCormick down at Rokenville, Saskatchewan, I just stepped on over to our old childhood neighborhood there and picked up this scope and brought it home. It's been sitting in my house ever since. So I thought we would make a little bit of a video on it and do a little walk around and explain how all this here little device works. To begin with, the whole thing is made out of just odds and sods and old parts from old vehicles left laying around. And to start with, at the base is the steering wheel, which I believe belongs to a 1925 Chev truck, a 1-ton truck. It's got an interesting sort of a wooden laminated steel steering wheel. And over onto the edges, you can kind of make out some lacing. Now, I don't know if that's original or was that added to just to hold the laminated wood together. But somebody had done something to it. And then there's the steering shaft goes all the way up to that joint right there. And it's an expandable joint. It only goes up another foot or so. so it doesn't add much height. You would think you would have made it so it went 3 or 4 feet height up to, you know, for a man to stand at it and take a look through this telescope, but it's only about 1 foot long. Maybe it was originally, I have no idea, or that's all the material they had. And this has just been like a hole drilled in it with a bolt threaded into it. This here shaft inserts down in. It's all welded together. And over on the other side, there's a shaft that goes through a piece of pipe, and it's got a washer with a cotter pin stuck in it, so the telescope will go up and down, plus you can turn it around on the swivel. You can't really raise it up much, but I remember as a child when we were looking through this telescope, well, we were only this high, 2 or 3 feet high from the ground up, so it was perfect for us. And one of the times that I do remember quite well is when we had the solar eclipse in Saskatchewan. We could see it very nice, and yeah, so my uncle had all us kids over and we all took a look at the solar eclipse. He aimed this thing up there. But anyway, he got the plans and everything up, which I believe is from the Popular Mechanics. And as you can see, if you're familiar with tomato cans, this is exactly what this is. It's a tomato can. It's got the ribbing in here that's been adapted to part of this construction. The main part of the tube here is actually a heating duct for forced air furnace. So that length of pipe that's what that is. And then this is another can, which on this end it's either a paint can or something like that, that just fit exactly over that heating duct tube. If you know how a paint can is made, there's a lid that snaps into this land here, and then they just cut out the whole bottom end. So open it up, and it's to serve us as a something like to put a shadow or take the daylight away from the front lens. You can see that lens down the pipe there, and there is a layer of this is actually tar paper inside the can to keep the glare off the shiny part of the can. So it's like a dark tar paper to absorb any and all light from the outside edges. So anyway, when we were looking up at the sun, of course, you couldn't look at it directly with your eye. That's for sure. My uncle made sure we didn't do that, but he had it aimed up to the solar eclipse. It would go down, the light would go down there, and there is a secondary lens in this area here, maybe where this tape is, I'm not sure. And there's this here device here. It's an old lever with a knob, looks like a hydraulic, kind of like a lever and knob. You move it back and forth for fine adjustments. And toward the bottom here is a couple of pieces of brass, like copper pipe, not brass, but copper pipe. And over here on the end is the eye. And I think that'd be the only thing that they had to order special. And when you take it apart, or you can screw it right out, and that's how you got your adjustment. You just screwed it in and out to fine tune the focus. And that eye, as far as I don't know what it's made out of, but it's hard to define what it is. You can't really see too much in it. And I can't really show you an example of what you can see through this telescope because it's so overcast, dull day. And I think all you could actually see would be, a nicer area of the sun or a moon or stars or something like that. And it's a very low power deal, maybe 2, 3, 4 times power or whatever, however you put a strength on a binocular or telescope. But anyway, I thought it was quite a unique thing for back in the day. The ingenuity of the older generation, older than me, that's for sure. But they gathered all these basic things just laying around the house, put it together, and made themselves a telescope. So all in all, that's my little story about a little bit of family history, the ingenuity that my uncles had, my dad had, and most of the family had some sort of a mechanical curiosity. Like they built a lot of their own farm machinery, like stone pickers and grain augers, bale elevators, just a whole bunch of stuff. And a welder even, like they've made their own 110 volt. Actually, it was not a 110 volt welder. It was they made a Model A engine to drive a generator from Princess Auto or Army and Navy, one of the two, and you know, they produced electricity to run their welder. They made the transformer out of laminated tin cans. I don't know how many tin cans they used, but they made a square box, hollow in the middle, and they wound the heavy wire around there, whatever the required amount of windings were, and that welder did weld. I know as a kid I'd seen my dad welding with it, and so on and so forth. So it did work. So anyway, that's all we got for now. We'll catch up to you later.